In here, we have about 6 inches of insulation missing here in the corner. So I'm not too thrilled about it. I'm figuring out how I'm gonna approach the sales manager to get them to come back out and correct these issues. Whew, it's hot today, YouTube. Hey, I'm here at the property. It's about 99 to 100 degrees outside. And I'm gonna raise these headers here in the walkways, the openings, just to kind of give it more of that grand look. They've already started some of the insulation. You can see up top there along our pony wall, our chase here for our fireplace. It has been insulated. So later I'll install the actual fireplace now into that slot. The other things that have been done, they have caulked around the seams on the bottom. Let me show you what that looks like. So if I come up against, let's see how well this shows for the camera, but see that caulk line right there? So they've done that all the way down to our seal plates down there at the bottom. So those are caulked. Also up above, the double top plates, which run up here, those have been caulked. So we're rocking, we're rolling, we're making progress. What I'm getting ready to do, like I said, is behind me here. So that entryway right there is kind of low. I mean, I'm a tall guy, so to me, when I pass up under it, it kind of takes away from the grand effect that you get when you first walk in. So if I come back to the door, which is facing this way, if you look, you see those are 10-foot ceilings, and you see how grand and tall it looks. But then over here, that kind of takes away from that feel a little bit when you walk under this walkway here. And see, we have this extra space here. So I want to push this up, like right there where you see all that block in that opening. I'm going to push this up so that it touches that blocking up there. That's going to raise this entryway up, kind of give it more of a grand effect. And then we'll do the same thing over here on this side. You saw me do something similar to this when we actually raised the headers for the windows. If you remember that video, if you haven't, go back and check our video for raising the headers on those windows there in the kitchen. So with me having some prior experience with this, I expect it to move fast. And I just got a lot of things to knock off on the list today. Next week, they'll have insulators in here, actually blowing in the insulation. So making progress, that's what we want. I'll set up a time lapse so you can see me walk through this process, just in case you didn't catch the last video when we did the windows. But yeah, sit tight, enjoy the show. Peace. Sometimes you get boards that, you know, when they dry, they wind up changing shape. That's just the natural nature of working with natural products. How many times did I say nature or natural? But anyway, so wood is a natural product, which means it's not perfect. And when it dries, it shrinks because of the different layers or the rings, if you remember, when a tree grows. As they dehydrate, that causes that wood to shift and move and twist. Some boards will twist up really bad and some will bow. In this case here on this wall, if you remember this wall, this board here is actually bowed pretty bad. I've got some blocking that I've kind of cut to straighten out these boards, and the way blocking works is it just fills the cavities in between the two studs and makes it more rigid so the boards don't have a tendency to bow in one way or out the other way. It's a good, easy fix to fix a board that may have dried and bowed too much. I'm gonna take these out just so you can see how much it's bowed. So this first board is really in place to keep this board straight. And then this other board, I put it in. So I don't know how well this is showing up on the camera, but you can see here how bowed this is. I'll take this other 2x4, and as I go up the wall, you can see here, it has a bow, and as I go more and more up the wall, you see this board starts to get closer and closer. So the bow is kind of right in here, and I want to pull that in, you know, and secure it in place so that this light box or this light switch will, you know, be level and not look all wonky and sideways. So the way to fix that is with the blocking. So I was measuring this blocking. The board I had in was a little bit too short. This board here, this one's perfect. The 2x4 that spaces these two, that one's perfect. This board here is a little too short. I'd like it a little bit longer, and by making it longer, it'll push this board even more straight into line. So once that's done, I'll take the nail gun, tack it in, and it's not going anywhere at that point. So I'm gonna set up a time lapse. You'll get a chance to see that in action, and we'll be back soon. Part of my air sealing. I just looked at the timing. My schedule had gotten hectic, and I said, hey, you know, I'll go ahead, I'll pay for this service. The service was about $300 and something, and it was to foam around all the windows, to foam the corners. So behind me, here's a corner here. This particular corner is a corner that I foamed, and I'm gonna get in close. I have to trim back the foam because I used really high expanding foam, and it kind of bubbled up out of there. That will cause a problem later on for the drywallers as they're trying to hang drywall. So I'm going back in a few spots and cleaning that up. I'll show you what it looks like after I trim it back. So if you can see this corner here, that's with the foam trimmed back now. That's kind of just fixing a newbie mistake there. After foaming maybe a fifth of the outside walls that way, I noticed that, hey, this has a little bit of a learning curve to it, and I might need to get a professional. Not that I couldn't do it, but it was just one of those things, like, did I want to take the time to do this? And I'll show you some more of my work, which isn't that great, but like I said, I'm going back and cleaning it up. You can see there, that's bulging out too much, and so I gotta cut that back like I did on the other side so that when they hang drywall, the drywall will fit flush into this corner. Also, I can't count on the drywall installers to actually do that, because unfortunately, sometimes people just get in, they want to do their job, and they want to get out quick. And that runs into problems when, there's quality things that need to be checked. And which brings me to the point of this video. So, as I said, we paid someone about $300, our insulation company, to do an air sealing package. Well, some of the things that they failed to do is, if you look here, these are the bats that are on our pony wall in our great room, because we have 10-foot ceilings and 9-foot ceilings throughout the rest of the house. So they put a pony wall up for that extra foot and then insulate it with bats is the way it should be done. The only problem with that is none of these bats are cut out to take care of that notch right there from the extra piece of floor joist that's running and resting on the top rim joist there. So they're just crammed in instead of cutting them and tucking them in there properly. That decreases the R value in that particular location. Another thing that I'm not too excited about, especially when this is things that you pay for, guys. Here, you can see is a light, and instead of cutting the insulation around that light fixture, it's been stuffed and cramped up behind it. Now, what that does is that also reduces the R value. Whenever you have insulation, especially fiberglass insulation, and you compress it, you reduce the R value by doing that. So that's why they always advise to cut around things in order to make it fit and still have it not be compressed, because that compression removes air from out of that insulation. And it's those cavities of trapped air that really do the job of sealing when it comes to insulation work. So if we look here, there's just maybe about an inch and a half gap between those two bats. They're not even tucked tight together. So that's coming from the attic too. So that'll allow plenty of hot air right in, to this laundry room area. And then here we have about 6 inches of insulation missing here in the corner. So I'm not too thrilled about it. I'm figuring out how I'm going to approach the sales manager to get them to come back out and correct these issues. Some of the other things that concern me is here. Let's see how well that comes in. But along here, it's supposed to be foam, and there's some spots where the foam didn't quite take. And so it's not foamed all the way through, which means it's not sealed. And just because foam is sitting there doesn't mean that it is properly sealed and insulated. That foam has to connect between that window and, that stud in order to really seal off that space. The other things I noticed were some of the corners. Wherever you have corners, your corners need to be sealed, because that's a spot where 2 boards have come together right around the corner of this wall here. And so you want to seal in those hot spots within the corners. So I was expecting seal in that corner, trying to work out my camera. And I was expecting seal in this corner. If you remember, they came by yesterday and they kind of did the air sealing, like sealing right before the installation. There was a few areas that they didn't seal. If you remember in the video, like the headers up here, those weren't sealed up there or up there. The jack studs, those weren't sealed. And there was some corners that weren't sealed. So they kind of snuck in and took care of that. I'm so thankful and glad for them that they did take care of that. They handled it very professionally. I called my salesperson this morning when I was over here at the property, and I had reached out to him over the weekend and just showed him some pictures, and they fixed everything. So I am very happy about that.